Hello and welcome everybody to day 2 of your week 5 Academy broadcast. We got more Academy games right around the corner, and I'll be your host of the twitch.tv/Academy channel for today. I'm joined by Mazel, of course, everybody's favorite host, the Frenchman himself.
I thought that was you.
Over there.
I don't speak French. What are you talking about? I don't know what you're saying.
I thought you were that guy. I've seen you on Twitter.
People get us mistaken all the time. Like the twin syndrome. I don't know. But anyways.
Sure, yeah. You got one of those faces.
It's wonderful to be here with you, Kangas. It's wonderful to be here with already the final day of week 5. I just don't even want to say it anymore. We're going to move forward so we don't have to talk about that.
Literally, in all of our story meetings, it was like, oh, this is the second round robin, right? Like, wait a minute. How are we already halfway through the season? Like, this is ridiculous.
But we do have some fun updates. We have had movement in the Challengers queue, or Champs queue as well.
Yeah.
And it's been a fun one to watch. But we do have some Academy standings here. And we're searching out some players. I see a lot of geniuses at the top of that board.
There's a lot. There are a lot of evil geniuses. Cowrie, Surdy, and Tomio all grinding. Now, everybody is represented somewhere, but these are the top 10, and then you can see their current ladder position on the far left right there. So it's cool to see just tracking who's been grinding, who's not. Of course, you can put as much stock as you want to into these standings, but clearly some of these players are putting in the work themselves.
Every time I get to talk to these players, and I just see the brimming smiles talking about Champs Q, like from literally everybody. Yes, there are some things that need work, things to be changed, but it's the fact that people are having fun playing video games with other people at that level. It's actually incredible.
Yeah. Shout out to Riot Whoopley for putting that together. That was one of his projects, and I know that's near and dear to his heart. So it's awesome that the players have been enjoying it so far. But we also had Academy games yesterday, Mazel, and you had some really cool ones on your stream. There were some 2-0s. We had all 1-1s. But one of the 2-0s on your stream, maybe a little surprising if you were a fan of Team Liquid, because the Golden Guardians, man.
Yeah, and they also had some spice to throw up on social media as well as Chime and Stixay making an appearance as Patrick and SpongeBob. Oh goodness! But honestly, it backs up the top. Like, they were so dominant yesterday.
Yeah, I haven't actually seen those games, but I saw the scoreline, I saw the stats, and of course I saw the meme. But I'm excited to go back and watch that series later because that's one of the ones I was looking forward to the most. And in general, Golden Guardians still impressing us incredibly in second place and actually catching ground on CLG Academy.
That's the craziness of it. But back on Stream B, because yesterday was just a full day of craziness. We also had a triple tower dive by C9 Academy's Copy. We're gonna go ahead and play the clip with the audio of the cast.
Did that,
and we'll see what happens.
Dark Wings.
So, is that the goal of this game for Dignitas, just to make sure that Cloud9 doesn't have?
The best part is just hearing like how unprepared they were for that to happen. I chatted with Rafa and he was like, I just wanted to give Joshi time to finish what he was saying before coming in. But by then it's like, he's under inhib. What is he doing?
It's actually crazy how quickly that unfolded, but also just the Chadness radiating out of Copy there. I mean, you are a Tryndamere. I guess it goes hand in hand.
There were 2 specific moments in that play where I could tell, I was like, there was a slight hesitation, and he was like, do I turn back? No.
That's the in trigger. It's like, is my coach gonna yell at me? Like, am I gonna need to stop? We're far enough ahead. I think I'll be forgiven. It's okay.
Tails is fine with this. But that's awesome to see that you had 2-0s on your stream. We had the 1-1s, and the biggest 1-1 of the day on Stream A yesterday was Immortals versus CLG. Immortals took a game off of the number 1 team in the league right now, which is absolutely, impressive from them. And things are actually looking to be coming together for that team. And I actually had a chance to chat with Cubby and Joshi about Immortals, because it seems like there's 2 primary schools of thought with this team right now in terms of kind of who's the primary carry of the team and who they should be investing in. So we have a new segment called Forced Debate where I have Cubby and Joshi do just that. So let's take a look. Academy. Is it Arrow or is it Chad that they need to start playing through? Well, I got 2 casters to debate just that. Each will have 20 seconds to give their primary arguments and then 10 seconds to respond to each other. I got Cubby defending Chad and Joshi defending Arrow. Cubby, you're up first. Let's hear your opening arguments for why Chad is the key to Immortal success.
When Chad was on 100 Thieves next, he needed time with the team playing through him to get him from a solo queue player to a competitor. I think in Academy, Immortals needs to do the same. Anyway, this guy's name is Chad. His first name is Maximilian. If you give him resources, he could be a Roman emperor, so you might as well let him make or break your team in that way.
Okay, not too bad of an argument opening for Cubby, but let's hear it from Joshi. Why should Immortals play through Arrow?
Well, King, it's pretty simple. When they play through Arrow, they're winning. It's a huge part of why Immortals have been finding a lot of their success thus far, and we were even able to see during Super Week when they played multiple enchanters and just said, hey, everything in this game is going to be on Arrow. He was able to step up to the plate. He's been a natural leader. He's had a lot of success with Wildcard Red and professional play previously, so I have to imagine it's going to continue if they continue to do so.
All right, not too bad, Joshi, not too bad. Now, each of you get 10 seconds to counter each other's arguments. So, Cubby, what is your counter to what Joshi just laid out?
Are the Enchantresses for Arrow, or are they for Chad? His Gwen is starting to net them wins, and I think it's a better way for Pretty to play with Chad on the map.
Ooh, that's a good one. I like that actually a lot. All right, Joshi, I mean, you just heard it, and that sounded pretty convincing. What is your retort?
Well, the big thing right now is Chad is still relatively untested. We're seeing him make a lot of plays, but a lot of them are ending up biting Immortals in the butt a lot harder than they were initially. Arrow, much more consistent.
Okay, not too bad of arguments. Honestly, I'm a little torn between the two of them, so let's hear what Twitch chat has to say. Let us know which player you think Immortals should play through, and also which cast you think gave the better argument.
And which is prettier.
And which is pretty.
I think that's pretty.
Joshi.
Chad.
Of course, Joshi, the prettiest member of the cast, has to ask which one's prettier. I think
I mean,
he's
I'm
baiting
just
at that
saying
point.
the baseball cap backwards on Covey. I don't know, man.
Did you see that mustache he was rocking
I
too?
did,
he shaved
I
that
did.
before broadcast yesterday.
And then you
yeah.
just have Joshi over there, so nice, so proper looking, fine. I don't know, that one was a fun one.
It's a look at casters more casual, Mizell. It's good to see us in a more natural
Yeah.
habitat.
Cubby taking it seriously with the cap backwards. That's when Cubby is serious, as well as apparently Kangas. We do have to talk about what we have going on today, though, because we got some fun ones for sure.
What's past is past, Mizell. Now we got the future ahead of us. We got the future to talk about. This is day 2 scheduled for the Academy broadcast. Dignitas versus Team Liquid, FlyQuest Immortals. CLG versus TSM, a spicy one to close out the day. But that first match is the one that I'm really excited to watch.
Yeah, it's gonna be a fun one for sure, and especially for TL coming back after yesterday. Ayla getting a nice warm welcome from the Golden Guardians. Definitely want to turn that one around against a team who also got in some trouble yesterday against Cloud9. So definitely a day of resurgence for both those two first teams, but the other matches are definitely hype, and TSM with Shinyi trying to take on the monster that is CLG. But we got to talk about Stream B, which is twitch.tv/FaceItTV. We got Golden Guardians taking on Evil Geniuses in our first match, and then 100 Thieves Academy taking on Cloud9 Academy in our round out series.
These are both bangers. I will say, I think that Face It TV is the one that I'd be leaning towards. These Golden Guardians, anytime they play now, I just want to watch them because they're looking like they are. I don't know what they're feeding them over the Golden Guardians camp, but it is clearly working. And then, of course, 100 Thieves are always a treat to watch. And Cloud9, they've been having some spicy drafts. They are just on an insane win streak
again today. That's all I'm saying. He looks so good. He was putting down Ayla in the bot lane for TL, so it was interesting. But if you want to follow and know anything about it, if you didn't know that, Chime was popping off on the Blitzcrank yesterday, you know where you can find that information. It's at the Path to LTS. So
right
go
here.
Watch it. It's down on the bottom of your screen.
It's at the bottom of your screen right now. You don't even have to. You could have us deafened. You could have us muted right now, and you could still go follow. So make sure that you do so, because of course, this is where you get all the Academy and amateur updates that you could possibly want. If you want to track the development of North American talent, which is the whole point of what we're doing here, make sure that you're following that account as well. But with that said, Zell, I believe we're ready for our stream split.
Yeah, I think we got to change the channel or something. So let's try and see if this works. I don't know. This remote's kind of old, and
all right, switch, change.
Go.
Is it
go.
doing
Is it voice remote? Is it activated? Is it
change?
Kangas, I'm scared. I don't know how to
split
turn
stream.
it off. Turn it off.
Get this dang thing to work. Oh, okay, it worked. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Stream A on twitch.tv/academy. For all of your Academy Best of 2 action, I'll be your host. You can call me Kangas. I'm joined by Joshi and Rafa on today's broadcast. And, God, man, the outfits are just always amazing. I can't believe that you guys match this well every single time. Joshi, you even got drip on. Is that drip I see?
We got a little bit coming through right here. Mark said he was going to do a red bomber jacket. It's like, I don't think I have anything that matches that, but what if I flip the colors on him?
I like it.
We're ready
I
to
like
go.
it.
He flipped
It
the
works
script.
pretty well.
Well played.
Flip the script, flipping the colors, but still matching. I love that synergy from my casters. But let's talk about some synergy of players here, because we got a really exciting match to start off the day. Team Liquid versus Dignitas. And the reason this is exciting for me is because Team Liquid now have Ayla in the support position, guys. He has now moved back into Academy after a very impressive performance on the LCS stage while he was filling in for Core JJ. But this is the Team Liquid roster that we should expect moving forward. So I want to start talking about this one to begin, because not the best start for Ayla coming back.
No.
They did suffer an 0-2, Joshi.
Yeah, we have to temper our expectations a little bit, right? Even when Cloud9, who has won 9 of their last 10 games, when Malice first joined them, they looked not great going up against
True.
Golden Guardians. And Team Liquid had a similar day yesterday. But we know that Cloud9 turned it around and have performed admirably since. And that's kind of what I'm expecting from this Team Liquid roster. Once they have a couple more games under their belt, once they've gotten used to playing with each other again, they should rise back up to the top. It's just going to take them a little while to figure everything out after having come from multiple different teams, now coming back to Academy.
And somehow Golden Guardians just keep getting the team that
I
has
know,
like a
right?
new player come in. This happened twice in a row.
It's not why they're so high in the standings, but it's definitely helping.
Yeah, it is helping. It is helping for sure. But yeah, Team Liquid Academy hoping to turn around their misfortune from yesterday against Dignitas Academy, who should theoretically be a team that's easier for them to tackle. Closer already in the standings as it is, Rafa. And now Dignitas, they're an interesting team to talk about, because it's tough for me at least to put a thumb on exactly what their playstyle is right now. So what's your read?
I mean, Dignitas have always been a team that commit as a 5-man unit.
True.
That's really the story, because then sometimes, even in some of the plays that don't look they should work, they will work because everyone is together and they see the same vision, right? Now, the question that we have been asking for them is, can they adapt and start bringing versatility in some of their compositions? Because they're going for relatively very similar drafts, right? They want to play for the early game engine using XU and JJ to really kickstart the rest of the game. It didn't work against Cloud9. And a game 1, massive stomp, and in game 2, slightly more competitive. They went all in the Eclipse basket, trying to snowball him on the Renekton, and it allowed them to stay in line with Cloud9 for a majority of the game, but at some point you will run out of steam if you cannot close out the game in less than 25 minutes.
And again, Dignitas are a very young roster. Outside of JJ, who's kind of the air quotes Mama Bear, the self nicknamed on the team, or at least the team is nicknamed that. They don't have a lot of experience in these grind games that Cloud9 kind of brought their way yesterday. But we also want to highlight a specific matchup here in this best of 2. We bring our eyes to the bot lane here, Joshi, because when we look at both of these 80 carries from these rosters, we actually see this as being a potential for, I mean, honestly, either of them can try and use them as a win condition, but I even look at this from Dignitas' side and think that this could be their secret too.
True, and it also helps that their names rhyme, so we can just go Yon and Spawn right back to
think
back.
about that.
So, I mean, looking at it across the board, both these players have been playing for quite a while, but Spawn, relatively new to the scene in a lot of ways, has been looking to build up a name, and watching him play alongside JJ has made him look really, really good. His team fight positioning has been really, really strong across all of the clips that we're going to be seeing, as well as just his positioning basically across the entire season thus far. And, oh, we're jumping into Yon first, but yeah, Yon also one of these players that we generally think of as a little bit more rock steady, but we're also seeing a version of Yon come out a little bit more aggressive, where he's willing to go really far forward and kind of step up and be the carry that we always needed to be.
This has been the interesting thing for both 80 carries, right? Yon and Spawn, when they first came into the amateur scene on 100 Thieves Next and Polar Ace respectively, both of them were kind of regarded as weak side kings. They were going to take very minimal resources because in those setups, they were playing for a stronger top side. In 100 Thieves' next case, you're playing for Kenvi and Tenacity. In Polar Ace's case, you were playing for, I think at the time, Infectrix and Flares. So both of these players were relegated to Ezreal duty or Ashe duty, but now they have stepped up their play. They're being put on hyper carries like the Jinx and the Aphelios during this season of meta, and they've adapted extremely well, especially when you look at Yon, who had to perform in some of the LCS lock-in stages for the Team Liquid starting squad. There is a couple games where even some of the veteran players like Whippo and Bjergsen weren't doing that great in the first game or in those opening minutes, and then Yon was trying to salvage the team alongside Core JJ. So both of these teams, or both of these players, have really stepped up their game and proven themselves to be really formidable marksmen this season.
Yeah, it's awesome to see their development because we can compare them together. Like you said, they both have similar stories in moving from amateur to academy and now performing here on this stage. And yeah, the champ pools have exploded. I remember Spawn back in the day, kind of the prep we'd go in is like, all right, is he going to get Ashe or is he going to play something different?
Yeah.
And now he's, like you said, all these hyper carries, and the team is trusting him on those. So you can already see, give a player a year or two of development, and they will develop.
Yeah, it helps a lot when you're in this, professional coaching environment where you're kind of forced to learn to play other champions as well, right? You learn so quickly, and I think that's going to be the big thing that we're going to be paying attention to today is which of these guys is going to be getting resources to actually step up and try and carry the team. A lot of the time when Dignitas are winning, it has to do with XU not necessarily going towards Eclipse, but going towards the bottom lane to make sure that Spawn is going to be that rock that they can stand upon later on in the game because they know that he's always going to be doing his job correctly.
And on top of that, now we have to bring in the fact that Team Liquid Academy have Ayla in the support position. Now, even though yesterday's games did not go too well, that was against Stixade Chime, arguably one of, if not the best bot lane that we have right now in Academy. So I think that this is going to be a better look at what Ayla brings to the team and how he is able to respond to this bot side pressure.
I mean, we were ourselves as on-air talent, we're preparing for, still talking about Rhino, and then literally the night before, by the way, Ayla's coming in, and we're like, oh snap, okay, well, we don't know if the team was ready for that. Obviously, they've been scrimming, in houses with both squads. But even though Ayla, and we stressed this a lot on the second stream during yesterday's broadcast, just because Ayla has played with a majority of these members in the past, doesn't mean he's going to acclimate just like that, right? He's been playing with the LCS squad for the past 2 weeks. They have a different system of communication. They have their own lingo. And so I imagine that it takes a while to adjust to that. Will they be able to turn this around? We're going to find out.
And it's not just the fact that he was playing with a different squad. It's kind of crazy, like, how different comms can be just substituting out one member at a time. And we're not really clear on what the difference is between how Jenkins was communicating versus how Bradley is. And we'll get to see how effective they can be now that they've had a little bit more time together.
Yeah, difference between a top laner like Buppo, a top laner like Bradley, who's role swapped from the mid lane. So it's like, obviously, there's going to be difference there. But hopefully, Team Liquid Academy can turn around their misfortunes from earlier in the week as we are now ready for pick and ban. Dignitas Academy taking on Team Liquid. I'm going to pass it off to Rafa and Joshi to get us into pick and ban.
Bye, Steve.
Goodbye, Steve.
I don't normally call him Steve. I don't know why I did that.
Well, you were saying bye, Lennon, yesterday a lot when we were on the second stream with Mazel. So I understand it.
It's cute.
It's a little wholesome gesture from you just to say goodbye to our hosts. One of these days, I keep pushing for it, but I want to bring our hosts in for a TriCast or just let them take over because both Kangas and Mazel are really fantastic play-by-plays. And so if me or Mad Magical want to take an early leave one day or just need a little rest, it's like, hey.
Yeah. If one of you guys needs an extended water break.
A solid water break for 25 to 30 minutes, Or if it's Cloud9 game, maybe like a 40-minute break. But Dignitas QNTMPAY opening up, we already see quite a few bans towards a majority of the top side, not only in the LeBlanc Graves and the Jarvan. And they prioritize the Jinx, something that we saw Spawn already popping off earlier. And it looks like both of our 80 carries that we highlighted, they're getting their signature hyper carry marksman that they have been performing well with this entire season.
Yeah, so far I feel like we're not seeing any real surprises coming up from the draft. Even the hovers and XU, I mean, he will be going back to his signature Lee Sin. Wasn't the best day for it yesterday going up against Cloud9, but again, very standard things coming out. I feel like, now honestly, Mark, I feel like I've been talking about draft a lot less over the past like week or so, or like 2 weeks, just because we're seeing the same picks come out over and over and over. And this is one of the few things that we saw come out yesterday from Armeo that gave us a bit of a surprise, where he was able to play the Udyr. And to his credit, the first couple of levels went great, right? He instantly got level 4. He started chasing around the Lee Sin. Unfortunately, after that, Jan was having a little bit of trouble, getting away from time hooks, and it didn't really matter what kind of lead Udyr brought up. I'm just saying, there's a lot of things that Jan probably needs to go back and think about, but right now, Armeo going in with the Udyr, again, the same principle applies here, where you want to outscale the Lee Sin, you want to outfarm him, and you put the emphasis on X. You're saying you need to make some early plays in order to justify this Lee Sin pick, and I don't think you're going to be able to do that. So Team Liquid playing a little bit of a slower style, and I always want to emphasize they need to play defensive, not passive.
Dignitas QNTMPAY, once again, you already highlighted investing into the high octane playmaking, but it's a really small window.
High
as you
octane.
already, yeah, high octane, bro. I do like high octane.
Are you talking about the Lee Sin? I thought you were talking about the Udyr for a second. It's like, you and I have very
Oh,
different
no. I did say Dignitas, didn't I?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I think you did. I think I just wasn't paying attention.
Josh not paying attention
one
to me,
ear,
just
out the
like
other.
solo queue games. Hey, I'm coming in for a game. What?
Huh?
Team Liquid taking away some solo lane options, as neither team has locked in picks for Darkwing's Eclipse, Bradley or Harry, respectively. Ryze and Tryndamere being eaten off the table. Something that has been a notable pick for Team Liquid. I don't know if Bradley has won that many games with it, but the Gangplank performances he has pulled out have been enough to threaten, saying, hey, listen, you can't let this champion go freely.
True. And he has had at least one or two like massive barrels that basically won games. So, going back, we are seeing Harry hovering towards the Azir again, but a lot of picks are available right now for Team Liquid, and they're going to be locking in the Akali, something that Bradley has had some success with earlier in the season. And honestly, while this pick is flexible between the two roles, I'm kind of expecting it to go towards the top lane. But this says a couple of things. One, just as we were talking about with Dignitas yesterday when Eclipse played it, Akali doesn't really do anything for the first couple of levels. You're not going to have a whole lot of priority to support Armeo. And going up against Renekton, that problem is going to be doubly compounded, where it's going to be very difficult for Armeo to interact with the top half of the map for the first couple of minutes.
And even Team Liquid had a little bit of a calling card. It's like, hey, you're going to pick this Renekton, as they slightly hovered it before they went back and locked in the Akali. They knew that if they watched yesterday's series against Cloud9, in Game 2, this was the same game plan for the most part. Lee Sin and Renekton towards the top side, trying to shut down what was an Akshan for Darshan. But the Ahri pick for Darkwings, this changes things up quite a bit. Now, I would love to see that Yasuo pick, but
I know you would.
I know I'm getting debated, 100%.
Probably. Force debated, unfortunately. I think at this point we're going to have to see something very different, and the Irelia coming through is not the pick that I was really expecting. Now, this is interesting because these two picks, these two powerful women, can move between the two lanes very quickly, right? Bradley was an Irelia player when he was a mid laner for a while. It wasn't his most played champion, but we definitely saw a couple of games here. And Harry going with this is going to be opting into a very different style than what we were seeing yesterday. He was playing the Azir yesterday, where he was playing a much more defensive, a much more kiting style of play, whereas this time he's going to be going all in. And the interesting thing about it, Irelia oftentimes was specifically counterpicked by the Renekton, which is now confirmed to be going top lane for Eclipse. So Team Liquid throwing a couple of curveballs in this draft, and I really like the fact that they are willing to upset the norms, what we've been having so consistently in Academy.
Well, the nice thing about Aurelia is that, yes, in lane, if the Renekton snowballs on you, it's over. However, if you get out of lane, no problems whatsoever, you will outscale and you'll be able to duel the Renekton later on, especially once the Blade of the Ruin King is picked up, because that is, with the recent buff that it got this patch, such a huge item spike for Aurelia players these days. And so by you're bypassing that early laning phase against Renekton by having it go up against the Ahri. Now, Ahri has been a very powerful champion ever since the rework, and pretty much every single mid laner has jumped up on trying to relearn Ahri mechanics if they haven't been actively playing it in the past leading up to that moment. But it has been a huge pick for some of these teams, especially when you look at CLG at Triple being a huge Ahri fan himself.
Yeah. And part of why I'm expecting to see more of this kind of Irelia style play come through is the fact that the bruiser items have changed, right? Maw of Memoria absolutely disgusting broken. Same thing with Death's Dance. And so you're going to start seeing fewer and fewer burst mages, fewer and fewer long-term battle mages, just because you need the same kind of consistent damage output over long periods of time. And so things like this Ahri are going to be very sad when both Harry and possibly Bradley are going to be having the Death's Dance completed and a Maw of Memorias, because he's not going to be doing a whole lot of damage. And Harry's likely to build this item even if there's no AP champions, because the Omni Vamp that you get when the shield pops is so helpful anyway, and Harry becomes this incredible sustain tank later on. So we're gonna have to pay a lot of attention to how Dignitas win some of the early game, find some early game advantages, and put resources into spawn in order to make sure that they have some tool in order to DPS down the Aurelia later.
We're on the Rift. Just under a minute, no level 1 shenanigans. I do want to go back to something you mentioned. Did you say that Bradley might build Death's Dance on a Kali? Is that...
It is that good, yeah.
Holy...
Yeah. Death's Dance is buildable on basically every champion. XU is going to build it. Eclipse is going to build it. Harry's going to build it. It's not ridiculous for Armeo to build it, though it's probably not the best thing. It's, I don't know if you were watching. I believe it was last night where we saw a Rek'Sai in the jungle build Hullbreaker.
Oh, the first...
Yeah, Cadril was talking about it. It's
it was either LPL or LCK, one of those.
Yeah. Either way, it was absolutely nuts. I also like this synchronized ward sweeping, as we get a little bit of damage traded back and forth.
And a dredge line in. Both supports exchanging their first abilities of the game and taking about 200, 300 HP off the top. Looks like Dignitas are the ones that primarily win out on the sustained war, but notice here that Jan's going to have a little bit of extra damage as he opted in for the longsword. 3 pots versus the Dorn's Blade and 1 pot from spawn.
True. I mean, a little bit of extra HP there goes a long way, right? Just because this is naturally a bit of a counterpick in favor of the Nautilus, although that has become much less true over recent periods of time when the Thresh players have figured out the way to deal with Nautilus, is actually flay in the middle of it rather than going for all these hooks.
Flash flay. They go right for the level 2 all in onto spawn, forcing him to flash away. He's ticking down on the ignite. Jan almost takes him out with the green gun, but not quite enough damage. But this is going to net a huge advantage for Team Liquid.
We were just talking about how Dignitas were looking to try and create ways in order to put resources into spawn, right? XU clearing on the bottom side, just now going to be clearing out his red buff, suddenly doesn't have any opportunities to go towards the bottom side of the map, because the one place where they were going to expect a lot of pressure to be coming through now is not going to have it. So Dignitas kind of put on their heels a little bit in order to try and figure out where they're going to be playing towards next.
XU is now towards the top side of the map, a huge wave stacked up by Eclipse against Bradley. XU trying to finish out this blue buff and gun towards the top side of the map while there's still going to be quite a bit of a wave built up. But XU's a little bit slow on the play, so I don't know how much of a more of a window he'll have, and he's just hovering for the crab to start instead.
And this is the exact same differential we saw yesterday between Armeo and the other Lee Sin, right? He was just able to build up a level advantage by full clearing, getting the first camp, and then going to reset and be faster back on the map. You're seeing that it's about only a 1 camp difference right now, but that will continue to compound over the course of the game. And just like Cloud9 were doing, it is on Dignitas. It's not the same clock as we saw yesterday, Mark, but Dignitas is almost always playing against the clock as one of our newer teams. They don't have the same kind of experience in these long games. They're more likely to make small mistakes that our experienced teams like Team Liquid should be able to punish.
Something that Team Liquid were not able to do with their lead last time is when Armeo was ahead of Iconic's Lee Sin. And he individually was great on the lead. However, Team Liquid not able to use that lead as a team, whereas 3-man group onto Dark Wings. As a death sentence comes flying through, Dark Wings forced to flash away. Armeo was also there. XU forced to come and make sure that Dark Wings can push in this wave, maybe look for a reset or look for an opportunity to get some vision control.
Very good that XU was there, and JJ coming up as well in order to make sure that Darkwings is not frozen on and put in a position where he's not going to be able to farm. And that's one of the good things about mid lane, right? You have a lot of people that can come help you, and Darkwings, losing that flash early, will be in a tough spot. But I like the proactivity from Team Liquid, right? That's something that was kind of missing when they were playing with Rhino, and now that Ayla is back, is returning for Team Liquid. They are much more willing to go for some of these early game plays because they have the confidence to follow it up.
Despite all the aggressive action, it's just been summoners' spells burned. No actual kills, no first blood contested by either team. We are moving into the point of the game where the first dragon has spawned 3 minutes away from Rift Herald. XU making his way towards the bottom side of the map. JJ still has both summoner spells, but takes a lot of damage from Team Liquid. Oh, but the Fog of War doesn't quite hide XU. He is spawned in, and Team Liquid will play back temporarily.
And with XU going away, Team Liquid, you know they have to play a little bit more carefully, but this is a pretty big opportunity if they ever determine that Lee Sin is not there for Armeo to suddenly have a bit more of an impact, right? We're expecting him to just go for a lot of the power farming, but with XU gone and with the Dignitas bottom lane backing away, Armeo just faster, right? He clears out his jungle and he's already on the map. He's ready to hit this dragon, and that cha-cha-cha-cha every single time he goes with the Tiger Stance auto means that he clears it out super quickly.
Attack speed steroid on hit damage, and then you combine that with the overwhelming base damage from Phoenix Stance that Riot decided to graciously give back to Udyr after we saw enough of him during the spring meta of last year when Chem Tank was also a problem. However, our Dark Wings lands the charm into Harry. Flash comes out right before XU is able to close the distance and look for potentially lethal on Team Liquid's mid laner, and allows Dark Wings to reset once again.
Didn't quite see how Darkwings was able to get level 6 first, but Harry, now with his own ultimate, knows that there is no flash and no ultimate coming out from Darkwings, meaning that he is a sitting duck next time that Harry and Darkwings go toe-to-toe. So, expect to see a lot of pressure towards the mid lane, but I also want to praise Dignitas for something that we haven't seen quite as much as the vision control being provided by XU, right? Look at all the wards that are in the top half of the map, making sure they always know where Armeo is going to be, and making it very difficult for this man Bear Pig to come in and try and make a lot of ganks. And to XU's credit, while he hasn't found any early game plays just quite yet, he is not falling behind in farm. He's actually still remaining perfectly equal, and Armeo is now kind of being put on the questions like, is this Udyr worth it if you're not able to build your own farm lead? I think Armeo has the experience to make it worth it, right? Lennon keeps calling him the general as one of the big shot callers and major voices for the team. I think they can do it. Maybe call the general and save some time.
I think, to be fair, both of these junglers have tried to look for some plays, and that takes away time to farm. And so we've seen Armeo have a slight advantage when XU was looking for an action.
Like
yeah, something like this onto the bottom side of the map, but then Armeo then exchanges it by putting some pressure in the mid lane when they looked and got the flash out of Dark Wings. But XU setting up for this
nice
one.
Flash.
Immediate flash from Ayla, dodging out on the follow-up, a death sentence. Not going to look for a return kill. Actually, a little too healthy on the return play, but the fact that Team Liquid bot lane get out alive without having to die is great for them.
Great reaction time coming out from Ayla. That's one of those things that you always look for in your players is, do they understand what is going to force them to expend some of these tools, right? Ayla knows, I don't even know if he knew that it was Lee Sin, like, consciously, but he just saw a flash of a different champion come out of the bush, and he's like, oh, I need to get out of here. It doesn't matter if it's Ari, it doesn't matter if it's Lee Sin, it doesn't matter if it's Renekton. Something unexpected just happened. I need to get out of dodge, and that's part of why Ayla has been so strong of a player, is he primes himself so well. He visualizes the next part of the fight a lot better than a lot of other supports, and that was a perfect display of it.
Dignitas trying to take this pressure after the reset on bot lane and help XU safely take and at least start up this Rift Herald, but no one is contesting from the side of Team Liquid. Armeo is already gunning towards the bottom side of the map. Would they... I don't know if this is a strong enough of a dive setup, but they could push Spawn off the wave here.
True. They move in. Armeo knows he's gotten spotted, and with the Rift Herald going down, they know exactly where Lee Sin is. So I think this is mostly just going to be an opportunity for Armeo to shield them, because you already saw Darkwing starting to move his way down, and Armeo, by sticking around, knowing he's no longer on vision, will be able to take away, I believe this is the first camp taken away from XU this entire game. But now, for the first time ever, we're seeing a bit of a CS lead starting to come out from the Udyr.
Team Liquid don't manage to pull off a diver zone spawn and JJ from any further farm, but they netted 2 plates for Yawn. Oh.
I don't know if you wanted that spawn. Okay.
I thought that was about to lead into something more disastrous for them. Trying to play with some smoke, but unbeknownst to them, Armeo was still lurking around, but all 3 members will complete the back. We're back to a neutral state of the game, Josh.
Yeah. I mean, I was going to say, bears have a good sense of smell. Gotta ask Cubby about that one, but it's definitely a spot where not finding anything just quite yet. This is also one of the differences that you're going to be noticing between the two junglers, right? XU opting to give over the blue buff to Darkwings, whereas Armeo keeping it for himself. And I think that's more a product of the champion than the player, right? Udyr is just like, yeah, give me money, give me experience. I will scale up and just be a menace later on. And I also want to point out that is Udyr picking up a Dark Seal for himself, right? One of the biggest things that has been a little bit underexplored in League of Legends right now is opportunities to play AP versions of the bear, right? Having a lot of speed and a lot of Lich Bane auto attacks gives you a lot of pressure on the split push as well as just in these team fights. The only thing you're giving up for it is a little bit of HP, but if you're playing around your turtle stance well already, it's not necessarily going to be the biggest issue. So I don't expect Armeo to go down that route, but I would be very excited if he did so.
If we saw Lich Bane Bear, I imagine that Team Liquid are going to be massively ahead. But a Dark Seal is not a bad investment, 350 gold, and then if you start popping up with it, then your Phoenix damage scales up nicely with AP. Your shield, I believe, is a 1-to-1 AP ratio. So, and you're spamming that thing on cooldown. Oh man, you give yourself a lot of pseudo sustain. You don't die, exactly. And you're already building pretty much tank items with a bunch of resistances, so the extra shield is multiplied even further. Now the second dragon is spawning for Team Liquid. They have prior positioning on top of it. Harry is going to be the first one to move forward first since Darkwings is already in base. So Team Liquid just get the first 2 dragons of the game. This is another timer that Dignitas have to be conscious about, because now they will have to fight for what it looks to be. Which soul is it going to be? This? Oh, Infernal Soul.
Bernie. I also really like, I know you've been watching a lot of Naruto recently, Mark, and so, you know, Udyr opting between that cha-cha-cha-cha with the tiger and the Naruto run as the Phoenix, so there's no real way for him to not get away from it. But look at this, big play coming through. Team Liquid going to try and find a play.
4 members. JJ starts it off, but they just blow up Ayla. This gives Spawn a time to reset, and a beautiful kick from XU stops the fight from breaking out even further.
That was a very good turnaround coming out from Dignitas. They knew that Ayla was moving in a bit too early. Now they find Spawn.
Dredge line connected. I don't know how it reached around the minion like that. It's not enough to force Yon to burn Flash.
Armeo.
Now Darkwings, he has Spirit Rush and he has Flash. He should not realistically be in any danger, but Darkwings didn't want to have to use Spirit Rush, but he was like, man,
fine.
You're just too fast.
Zoomy Bear. All right, we get a bit of a replay here as this is the big thing from Ayla, right? He's expecting that there's not a Lee Sin here, and the extra bit of damage with the execute coming out from Lee Sin is enough to not only take down the Thresh, but also to kick away both Harry and Armeo. I think Harry also uses his ultimate in a way that we didn't quite see, but this play equalized a lot of the advantages that Team Liquid were starting to build up, right? You see CS lead in the mid lane, you see a CS lead in the jungle. They were in a spot where they were taking plates off the bottom lane, and the Rift Herald crash plus all of the gold that has now gone on to Spawn is making them very happy with the game state all of a sudden.
And that's the thing about this champion matchup when we go looking back at the Lee Sin and the Udyr. You will get naturally outpaced and outscaled, I should say, just because of the clear speed advantage you have. But you always have Dragon's Rage. That is one very powerful tool that is always in your back pocket. It's just up to the pilot to determine whether they can use it effectively. And I think that was something that when he was playing against Cloud9 and Malice's Udyr, XU didn't always have a great demonstration of when to use Dragon's Rage, because a lot of times as Lee Sin players, you think, okay, I want to look for the fancy insect. I want to look for the highlight montage reel. I got to look for the insane, ward hop kick flash play. Sometimes the best Dragon's Rage in instances is just punting someone that's trying to dive your backline, and he recognizes that Spawn is the main character of this composition. He needs to keep himself alive.
Yeah. I like to think of it in fighting game terms, right? A lot of characters have kicks in fighting games, as we just call them, we're not very imaginative in the fighting game community. We call them get off me moves, right? Just like, hey, just give me some space. Let me figure it out. Give me a couple of seconds and we will fight again in a moment. But that's one of the big things that XU will have to do here, because as you said, we set it up earlier, Spawn now looking to be the primary point of power for the members of Dignitas. And Darkwings, he's trying to check these bushes, but he can't check all of them.
But a flawless duet stun from Harry locks him down. Darkwings is going to try to dash out of this one. Flash and Spirit Rush disengages the fight. And now XU has a moment to punish, knowing that Harry still doesn't have Flash from before. And beautiful
Oh.
death charge from JJ sets it up. Dragon's Rage into the kick, and one more auto attack. It's a shutdown for XU.
Not having the ultimate there really hurts Harriet, but JJ in the right spot at the right time, keeping all his little cubs safe, and the rest of Team Liquid not able to really fight anything. That's another play in almost the exact same plays that Team Liquid are getting punished by. This bottom lane that they are trying to play through is unfortunately not working out for them, but mid lane turret looks like they got a lot of damage down, and the Rift Herald getting picked up for the members of Team Liquid will allow them to build another small gold lead as they are continuing to just kind of build small leads across the map. Unfortunately, the plays they're going for just haven't been working out.
The first Rift Herald did not net first brick for either team. The second Rift Herald being secured by Armeo on Team Liquid. Now gives them a chance to look at the map and see, which part of the map do I want to break open?
Yes, all of it. Ideally, if you could throw the Rift Herald down in every single lane at the same time, I think he would probably do that. But instead, he has to deal with the fact that we have a dragon coming up in 30 seconds. And for the first time, it looks like Dignitas are playing a very stable game in ways that we weren't typically seeing from them. Magical was calling them the coin flip team over and over because so much of their wins were depending on XU finding early game plays. But they are now in a spot where they are going into this dragon with relative parity in a way that they were going up against Cloud9 yesterday. Fortunately for them, they weren't able to get all of their flanks to move in an effective way, and now, with the Rift Herald going down, Team Liquid are going to try and force Dignitas to make a decision. Do they want to commit to the dragon, or are they going to try and deal with this Rift Herald?
Nice, that sentence from Ayla. Bear stance from XU, who's taking a lot of damage onto the back end. Has to get out with the safeguard. Armeo's running him out. Forced to use the Dragon's Rage to cut him once again. Harry on the flank. Bradley coming in with the teleport. Finds him. Perfect execution. Almost hits it. XU will flash away. Shuriken backflip does not hit the mark, but Dignitas is forced away. They deal with the Rift Herald, but Team Liquid will have control of the Dragon Pit.
And that's the price you gotta pay, right? You have to pick. Do you want to deal with the Rift Herald or do you want to deal with the Dragon? And this is the time where Team Liquid create two questions that Dignitas have to answer. And Dignitas chose one. They saved their mid lane turret, but that's going to be a third dragon going over in favor of Team Liquid, putting them one dragon away from Soul Point. And the slow and steady style that we knew Team Liquid were having so much success with in summer of 2021 is now starting to look really good going up against Dignitas.
They're now at Infernal Soul at 17 minutes. At 22, Dignitas are going to have to be ready for the biggest coin flip of their life in just stopping Team Liquid from securing that final dragon for themselves. Because if that comes online for them, there's so many carries in Team Liquid's side between Harry, Yon, and Bradley who will all massively benefit from getting an extra burst of damage on these squishies.
The problem is, Yon caught.
Dredge line, Death Charge, Super Mega Death Rocket, a lot of damage from Dignitas, but Yon still manages to get away, burning both of his Summoner Spells, and Gale Force keeps his distance, has Green Gun so he can maintain that rage at safety, but Armeo's traded out for JJ. Still numbers advantage for the side of Dignitas in this jungle, as Harry is in the mid lane.
Oh yeah, there's a Renekton in this game.
Damn. Why you gotta do a clips like that?
To be honest, he hasn't done anything this game.
Damn.
So. I legitimately forgot, and then teleport comes through, but this is just a spot where JJ is feeling like he needs to take matters into his own hands, right? And by going for this play, he creates a space where Spawn has the room to hit. Dignitas want to be the ones engaging these fights, because when you do that and you put Team Liquid on the kite, it means that they can't really go forward to try and turn on Spawn as effectively, because they have to use their cooldowns in order to get away from the initial engage. And that was a great play coming out from JJ. Even though it ended up being a 1-for-1, the concept was correct. They need to be aggressive. They need to create dangerous situations for Yon so that he can't try and kill Spawn later on.
I wonder if Eclipse actually just forced Flash out of Harry, because the Flash and the Dominus were coming from what seemed like the same timer. Obviously, Flash will come up much later than Dominus, but, you know, I'm trying to now find ways. I feel like it's my duty to give Eclipse some type
Eclipse.
doing something. Remember, Yon doesn't have sums from before, and Dark Wings was looking for that assassination potential spawn throughout the Super Mega Death Rocket. Unfortunately, neither of them hit the mark. Yon gets it out alive, but he has to reset, and that pressure alone gives Dignitas this first turret in the mid lane.
Yeah, it was getting traded, Mark. It's not just the mid turret that's going down. There's a lot of pressure being put on the side lanes, and Bradley takes the top lane turret at the same time. So, the other thing I want to talk about, Mark, is Dignitas. They went for a couple flanks yesterday, and they do have primary engage this time around in the form of the Nautilus, but they were in a couple of spots where they weren't always quite on the same page. They weren't going in at the same time, and that's what allowed Cloud9 to beat them so effectively in their second game. Now, they're in a very similar spot, and crucially, they have a very obvious target this time around. Team Liquid's Jan, who we painted up as one of these very stable AD carries, one of the weak side kings of the bottom lane, now has no flash, and his heal will barely be up by the time the dragon starts. So he becomes very easy for the very mobile Dignitas to try and lock down. But the question is it going to be worth it? They win fights where they are going aggressive, making Jan uncomfortable, but they can't forget that Spawn has most of their gold at this point. He's got the most farm, he's got 2 kills, and as we already talked about, 2 powerful women are going to be jumping down his throat.
That's Harry and Bradley, for anyone that doesn't
Yes.
quite make the connection there. But it's always a conversation that teams need to have and a question they need to answer in preparation of a fight. Is it all about, do we need to dive the backline so that their AD carry can't do damage, or do we need to peel back and protect our AD carry from getting blown up by their respective divers? And in this instance, I think Spawn is strong enough that you can make the argument that like it is far more valuable to use tools to stop Bradley and Harry from dogpiling onto Spawn.
Well, we'll see what they choose to do. The answers to our questions will come in about 1 minute. Team Liquid, they have this flank coming through. Armeo ends up showing himself because they do not want to leave Aphelios all alone in the mid lane. And this is going to be a big point of contention. Notice the fact that Harry up in the top lane is continuing to build up more and more pressure. And I have to imagine he's calling at this point, hey, please let me get my next item. I am very close to a Gourd Drinker. I'm very close to being that unkillable sustain tank during the rest of the fight. And if they're going to be able to do that, it will make their team fight so much more effective when it comes up. But they only have 20 seconds to do it. I don't know if Harry has the time to buy another item.
He might have time to take down this turret, but then he wouldn't be able to. It's going to be really close. Recall takes about 8 seconds to channel.
Whoa.
Oh, but they're spawned on a ward, so I don't know if Armeo can really go for it. Dignitas are booking him towards the other side of the map. They're caught.
Is it a bluff? It's not a bluff.
They're committing for it. Team Liquid saying, you know what, they can take the dragon. We're going to take this Baron now. And Dignitas, they're sending a couple members to scout it out. Bradley, Xy's
No
not there
way.
to secure
No
it.
way.
Oh my god. Okay, Xy has to go back and secures it, but now he cannot get to the Baron in time to make a steal play. Dignitas have 3 members. Eclipse are sending in the teleport as well, but Xy won't be here on time. Baron will be secured by Team Liquid, but they blow up Ayla. This should give Spawn some reset times. Bradley finds an angle, and Harry, they take out the marksman for Dignitas. Can they clean this one up? But the damage overload from Team Liquid might be enough just to turn it around. Watch for Dark Wings. Watch for the Spirit Rush plays, but the resets are not coming through. Bradley and Harry, he finds the Shuriken backflip onto the charm, and it's not enough damage. Team Liquid win it out.
And they get the Baron as well. It wasn't a bluff, and great play from Bradley to delay XU from getting there. We know how good he is at all of these flips. Team Liquid make sure that they cross their T's and dot their I's. But the big thing, we answered our question mark. What is going to happen if you try and dive to 80 carries? Both marksmen end up going down super early on in this fight, and once that happens, we know who wins the extended brawl. It's going to be Irelia every single time. She stays alive for so long in this fight, and you just see that even with XU's Q missing, it doesn't really matter. Harry never goes below half HP during this entire engagement, and once you do that, Irelia becomes an absolute monster and is now getting close to the Death Dance.
And the beautiful thing about that from Team Liquid, they know that Dignitas are such a huge threat when all 5 members are there and ready to coordinate and be that unit, because they have always shown that whatever play they make, if they commit as 5, they can turn around even some of the lowest probability plays around. But Dignitas were stumbling in 3 members at a time, a late TP from Eclipse because he had to guarantee the dragon with XU, and Bradley almost stole it. So it forced Dignitas in a really just, I don't know what you want to call it, just a bongled state of just being dismantled in that Baron pit. And Team Liquid, anytime you put Dignitas in it, or any team like that, it's going to be really damn hard for them to turn around a fight.
Yeah, I like to call it a scramble, like an egg, right?
There you
You're in
go.
a situation where everything is all jumbled up and nobody's quite sure what's going on, calls are unclear, and you basically just have to follow whatever the first call is that you hear, because there's no time to sit around and decide what you want to do. It's all instincts, and it's part of where Dignitas have historically had a lot of success, because they follow those calls. There's no hesitation amongst the entire team, but this is a spot where Team Liquid put them in such a difficult position because Team Liquid had time to plan it out before it even occurred. So Team Liquid now with the Baron are able to push out multiple lanes, and as long as they respect JJ's engage range, it is very difficult for Dignitas to try and punish them in the meantime.
And enough time has passed that even though Jan was forced to use heal in the last fight, his flash is back up. Gale Force is also ready. So if there's another fight for the next Dragon, which is going to be in 2 minutes, Jan will be safer. And now Dignitas have to be very conscious of the fact that Bradley and Harry are going to be gunning for spawn every single time.
I don't feel like Team Liquid did a great job of actually using the Baron buff that they were able to pick up, and that's one of the issues with having so many melee champions. Is it's very difficult to siege out the enemy side of the map, but they do take away all of the jungle, right? There is nothing here for XU to farm, and Mark, you have to know how sad it is when a jungle is just like, all my camps are being taken.
It is
I
what
have
it
nothing
is.
to farm. He's down 2 levels.
This is...
I used to matter for Smite.
Yeah, well... yeah, if it weren't for the smite changes, it would make these flips for Dragon and Barons far more difficult when you're down this far. But this pinch maneuver from Team Liquid, getting a little spooky for Dignitas, trying to fight for control to walk through what used to be their jungle, but is now securely in control of Team Liquid.
Yeah, it's definitely pretty spooky coming out right now, as you don't have a whole lot of opportunities to move through, and it's not the easiest thing to face check a lot of these members. It's not the worst thing in the world. You don't have the same kind of insane burst that a lot of other teams might have, right? It's, you know, easier to face check a Thresh than it is to face check a Nautilus, but the itemization differences are starting to stack up. Notice the Death Dance coming through from Harry. He was already winning a lot of these extended brawls after Marksman ended up going down. It's going to be really basically impossible for Dignitas to try and contest him later on in these fights if all the marksmen are gone, because Spawn's really the only one who has the sustained damage necessary to take him down. So watch Spawn's positioning in this upcoming fight. He needs to keep himself alive. Dignitas needs to create a pocket for him to play in, because Team Liquid are the ones who are asking all the questions.
With all the armor being stacked up by some of these members from Team Liquid, it makes Spawn's target selection even more important, because no Last Whisper available. How do you cut down through Armeo? That cannot be the target that Dignitas all in on, because it's going to take 5 million years just to chew through someone beefy like that.
Oh,
it has to be a
JJ.
squishy. JJ going in a little too far forward. The support is down. The primary engage gone. Dignitas Eclipse onto the front line, trying to stall as much time as he can, but you just see how
Harry's
little
here.
damage they are doing. Team Liquid, Armeo can just walk up with impunity. He's just forcing out bear stuns. A nice charm stops Harry from making his approach, but it's all going to be for naught, because Darkwings has run out of mana, and Spawn is trying to do the best he can, but he just cannot get through this front line of Team Liquid. They wiped them all out, and they're making the close of the game.
Valiant attempt at a turn coming out from Dignitas, but they are just going up against a clock that is ticking too fast. Once again, Team Liquid are inevitable this time around, Mark, and Team Liquid going to be taking the first inhibitor. Do they have the confidence to try and end the game right now? It looks like they're going to try.
Bradley, Harry, Armeo, and Ayla, 4 members against 2. JJ with a nice stun, forcing Armeo back, but the Ignite is going to not take him down. Flash fade from Ayla, forcing the flash out of Darkwings as well. And this should be the inevitable, as you said before. Team Liquid making a strong bounce back after yesterday's series against Golden Guardians will take out Game 1 against Dignitas.
Great play coming through from Team Liquid. Very standard play, very, you know, stock standard things from what we were used to seeing in the previous split, right? Just slowly breeding out their opponents, making sure that there's not a whole lot of risks going on throughout that entire game. And now Team Liquid, they're starting to look a lot more like their old selves now that Ayla has rejoined them. But Dignitas, we know that they have tried to play the style yesterday up against Cloud9. Didn't quite work against them. Isn't quite working up against Team Liquid. There needs to be a little bit more in order for them to actually take this down, because it felt like going away from a lot of their early game style has kind of put them in a box where they're not sure what to do next.
becoming a bit of a limiter for Dignitas as they are exploring what other options and play styles they can really look to as
Thanks, Lauren.
as the academy season is progressing. Before we eventually send it to a break so we can be joined by Kangas for our halftime show, I want to give one last shout out to Team Liquid for the way they had played around rapidly accelerating those first 3 dragons. That is such a cool play that they had, forcing Dignitas to choose between Baron or securing the Infernal Soul, because it's a difficult decision to be in, and punishes the fact that this is a fairly young and inexperienced team for the most part, and that's probably a situation that not many of them are going to have prior experience in, and just taking advantage of what should have been one of their greatest strengths and just committing as 5. They split them up, and it's easier to knock them all down. So, really great stuff from Team Liquid bouncing back after their series against Golden Guardians. When we come back, ladies and gentlemen, Kangas will be returning with his halftime show. So make sure you stick around.